stream now. Here we go. Your event is starting, and we are live, I believe. Yes, we are live. So this is the HBR News 156 after show, false rape accusation censors. Hannah, I did not know that. It looks like you did write it.
Yes,
so
that's my.
Since
yeah,
you
like
wrote
I said,
it,
shameless self-promotion.
yes. Since this is your article, I think it probably makes sense for you to read it, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because I don't want to read your writing and then butcher it.
You're fine.
No, it's
I'll
okay.
probably butcher it too.
Okay.
Because I'm horrible. Okay, so I can start. The title is Twitter Censors, a reference to Suad Fares's false rape accusation. Now, I have no idea. I might be butchering her name. Her name might actually be Sood Fares.
Oh no, it's Suad Fares.
Is it Suad?
Yeah.
Okay. So she is so odd that she had to make a false accusation.
Oh. How bizarre. How bizarre.
It's going to be the funniest thing about this article. Imagine one night, and this is obviously I swiped this from Karen, but imagine one night you're accosted by strangers, bound, stuffed into the back of a car, and driven to a building where you are put in a cage. Your family has to pay a ransom to get you back, but not until after your captors have interrogated you, accused you of a reprehensible act, publicly attacked your reputation, and threatened to throw you back in the cage as retribution for your alleged wrongdoing. It's up to you to prove the allegation wrong, or it's the cage for you.
Sounds like libertarian stuff for me.
Yeah. Okay. No, you don't have. You have no recourse for the kidnapping and mental torture. No, you can't get your money back. No, you can't even get your name fully cleared. And you're going to have to fight tooth and nail to even get it mostly cleared. And by the way, you're not allowed to tell anyone who your accuser is because the nature of what you're accused of makes that illegal. That's the position Mark Pearson found himself in when he was arrested and questioned over a rape complaint made by award-winning Game of Thrones actress Suad Fares. The accusation itself was ridiculous. Pearson passed by Fares in Waterloo Station in London. Afterward, Fares accused him of reaching up her skirt and into her undergarments, which she referred to as trainers, by the way. I don't know what those are. And penetratively sexually assaulting her. That sounds like, pee pants to me, but anyway. Penetratively sexually assaulting her for 2 or 3 seconds. She claimed to have staggered and yelled, and that people all around her stopped. On behalf of the actress, Mr. Pearson was plunged into what he described as a year-long Kafkaesque nightmare of being arrested, investigated, publicly humiliated, and subjected to a trial. To secure a conviction, the state slowed down CCTV footage of their brief encounter in an attempt to make it look like there had been more time for the assault to have occurred, and Mr. Pearson's attorneys had to fight to get it played correctly for the jury. Even slowed, the footage did not show any contact nor any reaction by passers-by. Viewed at the speed at which it was recorded, the footage clearly demonstrated that the assault was physically impossible. There was less than a second of time when the two were even close enough to touch. Mark Pearson was carrying items in both hands, and the positions of his hands didn't change from frame to frame at all. So here's where I think, what it is he's related to Nicholas Aliverdian. And remember, Nicholas Aliverdian was, he faced an allegation that required him to have a third hand. Obviously, Mark Pearson also has that secret third hand, and it's super fast.
And the Speed Force.
Yes. The jury in his case took 90 minutes to return a verdict of not guilty. In brief, In brief.co.uk reports that under section 52 or 5 paragraph 2 maybe of the Criminal Law Act of 1967, CLA 1967, wasting police time, it is an offense to cause a wasteful employment of the police by knowingly making a false report, either orally or in writing, to the police or anyone else that an offense has been committed, there is a real threat to the safety of any persons or property, or they have relevant information concerning some police inquiry. The site also describes another crime that is relevant to this case, perverting the course of justice. And my screen is like going real slow now all of a sudden, so I have to wait until it lets me have the text here. And it's like, please don't freeze. Okay, perverting the course of justice. If a false report you made has particular serious consequences, and the police could charge you with perverting the course of justice instead. Oh, the police could charge you with perverting the course of justice instead, which carries a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. For the record, guys, right now my page is moving. So I'm reading text or trying to keep track of text as it jumps up and down on my screen. I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah. Police are more likely to charge you with this more serious offense rather than wasting police time if the false report was motivated by malice, if you continued to stick to your false story even when there were ample opportunities to retract, if you falsely accused someone of a crime and they were charged and remanded in custody. Good grief. I'm gonna punch a hole in this computer in a minute. It's frozen again. I'm sorry. It's like, I don't even understand why it's having a hard time with this. I don't have a bunch of stuff open. It shouldn't even be having difficulty parsing this. And the only thing I can think of is it's because it's on a voice for men, and Windows doesn't like, or Firefox doesn't like a voice for men. I'm gonna reload the freaking page. Yeah, it's actually telling me that it's unresponsive. What the hell? All right, so I'm gonna look it up on my other computer because I can do that.
More like Frozen Fox.
Yeah, fucking hell.
You funny.
Oh, hey, that's frozen too. This might be an internet thing.
Fox's feminist confirmed.
This is irritating.
Or they may have censored the article while we were reading.
That would just be absolutely hilarious. There it is. It's coming back up. Okay. Let's see. Okay. You falsely accused someone of a crime and they were charged and remanded in custody or tried, convicted, and or sentenced. The person you falsely accused suffered major damage to their reputation. You have a history and or previous convictions of making false reports. So here we look at the elements of this before I go on. Obviously, wasting police time is the equivalent of filing a false charge and lying to police during an investigation. Because that basically, if you say an offense has been committed, if you claim there's a real threat to safety, if you claim you have relevant information, those are all related to either filing a false charge or lying to police during an investigation. Perverting the course of justice would include perjury. And under UK law, my understanding is perjury is reserved for very specific, egregious instances that for some reason don't include this, but perverting the course of justice covers perjury in instances that perjury law doesn't. So, and the elements are there. Like, she claimed an offense had been committed that wasn't committed. The false report might not have been motivated by malice, but I think it might have been. I think she was PO'd that they bumped into each other. She was PO'd that he didn't get out of her way. And then she stuck to her false story and everything. So here we have going on. Mark Pearson is not a criminal. He did not by any definition commit a crime, and yet he has been arrested, interrogated by police, jailed, brought before a judge, and publicly slandered as a criminal. His accuser, however, did. In filing her impossible complaint with police, she wasted police time and perverted the course of justice. Equivalent crimes in the U.S. would be filing a false charge and committing perjury. Suad Fares is not a victim. She isn't even just a witness in a court case. She is a criminal. a perpetrator of the crimes of wasting police time and perverting the course of justice. She has not been assaulted, assailed, harassed, or even mildly inconvenienced against her will in this case. She wielded the justice system as a weapon of torture against another human being for a year, and she got away with it. Not only did she get away with it, she was accommodated. She received victims' assistance, including financial aid. At her behest, police rounded up and questioned a complete stranger, jailed him, extorted money from him, publicly humiliated him, and put him on trial. She was able to do this all anonymously, so much so that even in court, where the jury should be able to evaluate witness behavior to weed out lying, she was hidden from view when testifying. No charge will be filed against her for her criminal acts. Her victim has no legal recourse to seek justice for what she did to him. He can't even file a criminal complaint. Her anonymity is still protected. While other crime victims are encouraged to publicly name their perpetrators, Mark Pearson isn't even allowed to privately tell friends or family who victimized him. That is the law in the UK. All of the mechanisms of the criminal justice system are reversed when a woman commits the crime of filing a false police report of sexual assault, sticking to the false story even when there are ample opportunities to retract, and then participates in the process as if her lie were true when the accused is charged, remanded in custody, and tried for a crime based on that lie, suffering worldwide damage to his reputation and mental torture in the process. But that's the UK, right? Outside the country, anyone can name Mark Pearson's false accuser. I've named her repeatedly in this article. I'm going to do it again. Mark Pearson's false accuser is Suad Fares, award-winning actress, most recently known for her role as the High Priestess of the Dosh Khaleen in Game of Thrones. I could jump up and... Huh?
Is she still on the show? Is anybody watching it?
I don't think she is. I could jump up and down outside on my back patio shouting about it, naming her over and over like that character being stoned to death for taking the Lord's name in vain in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And aside from odd looks from my neighbors and maybe a potential noise complaint, I'd face no repercussions. I would not expect the UK police forces to show up on my doorstep and put a stop to my perpetrator naming antics. Nor should I, as the United States declared independence from Britain generations ago. UK law doesn't apply here, right? Apparently Twitter thinks it does. The site spent the last week suspending accounts, some a year or more old, over tweets, some a year or more old, naming Mark Pearson's perpetrator. I first noticed it when my account was suspended. The tweets didn't even all get flagged on the same day. One of my images is missing. But I have here different tweets. One of them, I tweeted to different hashtags. Hashtag lessons from GOT was one of them. If you're famous and female like Suad Fares, you can file false charges with impunity. And then I linked to an article about it. Has hashtag Game of Thrones actress Suad Fares ever even apologized for filing false charges against this man? And I linked to a story, another story about it. Has GOT actress Suad Fares ever even apologized again? And then I did one to hashtag You May Be a Ninja. You may be a ninja if you could do what Suad Fares falsely accused Mark Pearson of doing. Now, there has been a lot of other people. I asked around and found that others have experienced the same thing. There's Yes Margaret, who had, what did she say? She said, ha 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 ha, Game of Thrones actress who doesn't understand what rape is. Suad Fares, do you even watch your own show? And then that one got her suspended. And then, let's see, we have Richard Jackson, who simply tweeted, oh, and Suad Fares, hashtag Game of Thrones, hashtag Smoke Without Fire, in conversation. There's Yellow Violin, who had 5. He sent me pictures of 3 or 4 of them, and he didn't say anything necessarily. Well, the one was funny. He said, thankfully, Suad Fares was nowhere near Snyder in these shots, or she would have falsely accused him of fingering her. And that was in 2016. Then we have one from July of 2017. Good thing Suad Fares isn't in Game of Thrones anymore. No man is safe from being falsely accused of rape by her. And this goes on. He had another one, August of 2017. These aren't even all in the same month, but they were flagged all on the same day. The fifth one was August of 2017. So we have, and that was, one was August 6th and one was August 7th. So they weren't the same days, and they were flagged on the same days. With false rape accuser Suad Fares no longer on Game of Thrones, there will indeed be quiet in the realm. Some of the jokes. And then Eric Castile was suspended for pointing out that the accuser was Suad Fares. February 10th, 2016. Simone Norton, 13 February 2016. Agreed. If it was wrong of GOT actress Suad Fares to falsely accuse Mark Pearson of sexual assault. Peter Wright, February 8th, 2016. Suad Fares, a false rape accuser, and a bunch of hashtags and a link to an article. Susie McCarley, who was also with A Voice for Men, all she tweeted was at Suad Fares and a link. Steve Brule, Alison Saunders, UK, prosecuted an innocent man. Charles Pearson, known lies from Suad Fares, and he tweeted a link and he added Suad Fares. Most of these did not mention Suad Fares. They just had the name in them. So somebody must have gone through Twitter and flagged all of the mentions of her name and gotten people suspended based on those. There's two possibilities there. One is that Twitter, on some kind of an order from somebody in the UK, went through one week and got rid of all of the existing mentions of Suad Fares. And the other possibility is that somebody is going through and searching daily and flagging everybody that mentions her in conjunction with the case.
What are the odds that it's Suad Fares?
It could be.
Twitter?
It very well could be. But in any case, either way, it indicates something bad, because if just flagging the posts is getting people suspended, if just flagging the posts is getting people's accounts locked like that, and Twitter is not investigating, then their system is flawed. If they're actually doing it on behalf of some entity in the UK that has said you have to remove these, that's a different story. And that's what I wrote about in the article. Going on, UK law does not apply outside the UK. Twitter is not a UK company. It's an American company with its main headquarters in the US. It should not be applying UK law to citizens from other countries, especially those which, like the US, fought a war for independence from England. But in the name of feminism's Believe the Woman narrative, that is exactly what is happening. An American company, in apparent deference to UK law, is silencing the speech of American citizens and people in other nations, not under the UK's authority, all for having the audacity to discuss the reprehensible behavior of a criminal. If social media moguls wonder why they're the target of so much public criticism, why they're in the hot seat before US Congress, why regulation of their business is under consideration, here's a clue. Governments do not like competition. Social media platforms, presuming to apply any nation's laws but those of their own to the speech of citizens in foreign countries, are likely to draw the ire of those countries' leaders, as well as their own. Mr. 303, Pun Master in Chief, Twitter is a Saudi company. Twitter has a Saudi investor, and right now I think he's probably their biggest investor. But this company is a United States company. Having a Saudi investor. Yeah, well, there is that. But in any case, actually, you would think a Saudi investor would not censor pointing out a false rape accuser. It's like they're a little more aware of that, considering in Saudi Arabia, it takes a greater effort to prove rape, partly because the penalty there for rape is death. I think they hang rapists, or at least they hang convicted rapists. In any case, yeah, either way, it's still not in the UK. It's not a UK company. So, yeah.
I really don't think the social media companies are in the Congress eye for what you just said, basically.
Not entirely, but they are. There have been questions that some of the senators asked them that actually were very much related to this. And I think if they are going to start doing this shit, if they're going to start censoring Americans who are posting on social media in violation of UK law or some other nation's law, and it's an American social media company and they're posting in America, I think the senators will have some questions about that. They'll absolutely have some questions about that. That kind of globalism and that kind of unilateral sort of rulership by social media has been questioned. Cruz did bring up some things. But in any case, going on with this.
Yeah, I really don't like Congress wanting to regulate anything.
I don't either. But I do understand why it's happening. I don't think it's necessarily good that it's happening, but that doesn't change what triggered it. But and I would love to see instead that Congress would look at what regulations are in place that are keeping other social media platforms from rising up and competing with Twitter, and just eliminating those regulations, eliminating those protections, right?
Eliminating everything.
Yeah, it's like, all right, your intellectual property's not protected anymore, and we're going to reduce some regulations that we have on those. Oh, see, Doge, that's the kind of thing you got to put on the screen so everybody can see it. Bracket, 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 Twitter, bracket, 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 as opposed to the triple parentheses for them being Jewish. And
brackets look kind of like the onion tops on those churches, you know.
There you go. They look Islamic. Yeah, I was gonna say, because like if you wanted them to look like Islamic text, what you would do is find something that looked like it was created by ramen noodles being inked and pressed into the page. But let's see.
That's racist.
Where did I leave off? Yeah. The Revolutionary War was triggered by citizen ire over government imposition of laws on the American colonies without any representation of the colonists in the decision-making process. Citizens here aren't disposed toward tolerating the imposition of UK law on our speech. It's not surprising, and that makes it likely that there will be people writing to their congressman. Do you know that? Because I might have already done that actually. Do you know that Twitter is imposing UK law on American Twitter users' speech? Here's an example.
Technically, they're a private company. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, technically they are. But if Congress is going to be looking at them for their advertising practices and their political practices, they might as well look at this too. It's not surprising that Twitter's administrators cannot figure out that it's wrong to protect from criticism a criminal who spent a year exploiting loopholes in the UK legal system to torture another human being. After all, the perpetrator's actions were in line with their publicly displayed political outlook. Their inability to distinguish themselves from a one-world government entity, however, is rather eye-opening. It's almost as if, like Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, they're actually angling for government regulation of social media. Now, this is something I said about Zuckerberg too. I kind of watched him. He seems, the way his facial expressions are and the way his responses to people are, he seems he has that flat effect, not quite completely, but enough and his expressions all seem fake enough that it seems like he's not really uncomfortable. He's just acting uncomfortable. And the reality is he's got a goal. And I kind of wonder if these people, like Twitter's administrators, Zuckerberg, potentially Google's administrators, are actually trying to give Congress excuses to regulate social media and
Definitely.
stuff like that. Yeah, because then they could go from there to have control over what can be said on the internet.
Yeah, the what's this called? Zuckerberg himself said that he wanted regulations.
Yeah, he's been pretty transparent about that.
And it's the same thing for all big companies in their domain. They always try to add regulations because they know that having regulations make it very difficult for competition to attack them. Like the DMCA might be costly for YouTube to build, but at least it makes it really hard to build a website that will respect the DMCA and won't be sued into oblivion.
Yeah. Well, and then on top of that, you have, if Twitter decides they're going to politically censor, and the public complains that Twitter is politically censoring, the government comes along and creates regulations related to bullying and so on, because Twitter has asked for regulations related to bullying, and they're as vague as Twitter is about it. Then Twitter can pass the buck and say, we have to do this. The government says so. And they can do whatever they want under the guise of being forced to do it under the law. And I look at this and I'm thinking this is a sort of a, not necessarily a test case, but a pushing the envelope. Are we able to use this to protect false accusers from repercussions? Holocaust confirmed as a prank. Jeez.
Well, looking at the very last image, the one with the Trust and Safety Council from the article, do you think that there may be another angle? Suad Perez is a really kind of high-profile false rape accuser. She's a celebrity. And some of the feminist organizations within that may want to cover that up.
Oh, yeah. They don't want people thinking about this because they don't want people thinking about the fact that false rape accusations are a thing. False accusations of any kind. The idea basically that false accusations are more than just a rarity, and that they could be so blatant and so easily disproved goes against everything that feminists have said about rape culture and sexual violence and all that. So it's entirely possible that part of the reason they're bent on covering that up is because they don't want people talking about the phenomenon in terms of a famous woman.
Absolutely.
There were some other cases, like what was her face, Kesha or whatever her name was.
Oh yeah.
She was a false accuser as well, but I don't think anything happened from her case yet.
Well, it's easier to do this with Suad Perez because they do have UK law to fall back on. Like, it's illegal in UK to name her because she's considered a witness in a case.
Well,
US doesn't have that. It's not illegal. It's just an agreement among, if I remember right, it's just an agreement among news media that in general they don't name rape accusers.
And with Kesha, I'm not sure, but I think she didn't even file criminal charges. She just sued the record company to try to get out of her contract.
Yeah, that's basically what she did. Was she tried to use a false allegation to get out of a contract that she felt wasn't as lucrative as she could get. She made the contract, then she got more famous, then she wanted to out of the contract so she could demand more money. And the thing that made it really transparent was the business entity she was working with. They said, well, we can set it up so that you don't have to work with that guy and you don't have to encounter him at all in this company. And she wasn't satisfied, and she started a social media campaign demonizing them as if they were forcing her to work with a rapist.
Yeah, according to the Wikipedia entry on this, Kesha versus Dr. Luke, she dropped the charges in August of 2016.
Surprise.
More than 18 months after the first filing charges, Kesha dropped her sexual abuse case in Los Angeles while continuing her New York suit, clarifying that, quote, "This lawsuit has been so heavy on my once free spirit, and I can only pray to one day feel that happiness again," end quote. Oh, my emotions. She stated that she wanted to release music for her fans. Kesha finally released the single Praying on July 5th on Dr. Luke's record label, Kimosabi Records, with a third album, Rainbow, blah, blah, blah. And then on March of 2017, that's like several months later, a judge refused to amend her original case, noting that Kesha had entered a contract after the time period that the singer alleges the abusive behavior began, and contradicting the assertion that any alleged abuse would have been unforeseeable, and suggesting that Dr. Luke's alleged abusive behavior would have been foreseeable. George Takei, these are some reactions to the Kesha case. George Takei wrote, This ruling is an unfortunate and troubling example of favoring corporations over people." Producer Brad Walsh tweeted, "Forcing a woman to work with her rapist or to work for profit her rapist is a failure of justice." Lena Dunham wrote an article expressing her solidarity with Kesha. So basically, a bunch of people in Hollywood sided with a liar.
A bunch of feminists in Hollywood.
Feminists in Hollywood, people in Hollywood, same shit. There's like 99% of the people in Hollywood are feminists. And the ones that are
people.
Yeah, you ever seen They Live? But
Oh yeah.
One thing I think we need to consider about this Ferez thing is that the timing of it, because this has been in the UK law for forever, and the post gets gets shadow banned or deleted right now. And what do we have right now? Oh, the Me Too stuff.
Yeah.
It would be a shame if we have a high-profile false rape accusation.
The timing is really telling. The fact that this came out right during this whole Me Too thing, and to what Hannah was saying before, it doesn't look like there was an algorithm or a bot or program put in place to do it, because the tweets didn't all get deleted at the same time. And the suspensions didn't happen at once. They happened over a period of time. Also, it wasn't like Sawad Fares or there were any specific hashtags that it was tracking. It was basically if her name was there, people were searching her name and then looking through the tweets, because you can't just like do it to any tweet that has her name in it, because that would include a bunch of tweets that are not about the case at all, but about other stuff.
Yeah, it looks like they were specifically flagging tweets that mentioned the case.
Yeah, that mentioned the case and her name.
And had her name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so somebody searched Twitter, most likely, or a team of people or whatever, searched Twitter for Sawad Fares, went through every tweet over the course of however much time it took. So they went, for so many hours a day or whatever, and started suspending people. And then, over time until they were all gone. And because it had been so long since the tweets were made, it wasn't like anyone was talking about it anymore. So you actually have like a window of time that you can look at. From the time people were interested in discussing it to the time people stopped discussing it.
Yeah, I don't think there was a tweet suspended that was newer than 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that kind of leads me to believe that this may not be under UK law pressure is I think Mark Pearson is the only one who is not allowed to name her.
Yeah.
I think other people in the UK are fine. Or
no. If I understand correctly, it's like the news media can't publish who she is or anything like that. The only reason that Return of Kings was able to is because they're not UK based and they're not hosted by a UK based outlet.
But what about private individuals then? Because otherwise we'll have kind of a bunch of criminals from the ICMI 2016, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. I mean, we did name her at ICMI 2016. Erin Pitsey actually said her name in her speech, and of course she's in Canada, but not in the UK. But she's originally a UK citizen. But I would love to see them go after little old wheelchair-bound, soft-spoken, overly polite Aaron Pitsey for pointing out that Soad Fares made the accusation, because the news media would just tear them apart for that, especially the fact that when the fact comes out that Aaron Pitsey started the shelter movement.
Yep.
She's kind of got a unique shield.
This is why I'm not sure if it's the UK thing, because I think private individuals actually can name her, but not, you can say, well, she falsely accused him and all that.
Well,
maybe they can search accountability from the press, but not from...
Yeah, I think private citizens can name her in the same way that you can smoke pot in your house. You're most likely not going to get busted for it, but it is still illegal.
I see.
Yep. Well, is that the end of the article?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. No, that's it. I was just looking.
Yeah, the image was the end of the article. I don't know. We can look at I don't know if there's comments or not, because I haven't.
Oh yeah, they said there are 15.
It posted Facebook 131 times. That's cool.
Yeah, there are comments. I thought I saw.
Oh yeah, 16 of them.
Well, there's actually more. Well, I can fully second this. I received a 1-week Twitter ban for a tweet about Soad Fares from the Thought Police about her false faker rape allegations. My tweet was 2 years old. We are all living in a digital online censorship world. Peter Wright, my question to Soad Fares, who I'm sure is reading this, is when are you going to publicly own up to the false accusation and to trashing a man's life?
Yeah, that is a good question. This is something this bugs the hell out of me. Here we have a situation where it couldn't be more blatantly obvious that she lied. Like, the video shows that what she said happened didn't happen.
Yeah.
The only more blatant lie she could have told would be to be sitting in the courtroom in front of the judge for an hour, and at the end of that hour, turn to the judge and say, "Why are you not arresting him? He just raped me in front of you guys 5 minutes ago on the floor of this courtroom. Didn't you see it?" And they do nothing. They've done nothing to her, and they will do nothing for him. Like, you can't get any more prejudice against men than that. It's okay for her to attempt to destroy his life, to drag him through the mud, to torture him for a year, and she gets shielded from any accountability, from any culpability for what she did.
Mm-hmm. True that.
That's why this needs to be Streisand.
Absolutely.
This needs to be. Everybody needs to social media the fuck out of the article. Shameless self-promotion here, but also because
No, I think it's important.
I want Twitter to have to come out and say, we didn't do this because of UK law. This was a flaw in our system. I really want them to have to come out and say, we let people do this by hand, because that would totally destroy the credibility of their flagging system.
And the system flaw would be just some fat blue-haired feminists in there.
Yeah.
Yep. I think, actually, I think that this would make a good video if you record one. I made a video about the Soad Fares thing when I heard, and it was Karen and a couple of other people shared it on Twitter. So it was just like a warning that I made really quick. So yeah, definitely spread the word on this. I'm going to go ahead and end the after show stream for the live portion. So thanks, guys, for joining us.